Welcome to this month's CEE member call. We're just letting everybody in from the waiting room now, so thank you for joining us today. It's great to see so many members on the call. I'm Lisa West, the Membership Officer at Community Energy England. I've also got Kim helping with the slides today as well. Please welcome yourselves and introduce yourselves in the chat box. If you pop your name and where you're from, it'd be really nice to see where everybody's calling in from today. I'll just give everyone a minute or so to get in to the call, and then we'll get moving forwards. So, those who are joining, thanks for joining us today. It's really nice to see so many members on the call. I'm just going to allow another 30 seconds for other people to join us. Please do pop your name and organisations in the chat box. We'd love to see where you're calling in from today. Right. So everybody knows we will be recording the event today. So if you don't want to be seen as part of that recording, if you could please turn your camera off. We will be sharing the recording on our Lumio Community Practitioner Forum and on our members member call webpage on our website. So we do like to share the video with other members who can't make it today. Please, could you also pop your questions for the speakers in the chat box? I'll be collating those throughout the call, and we'll have a dedicated Q&A session once we've heard from all of our speakers. So please pop your questions into the chat box, and I'll pick them up there. Thank you. If you could move to the next slide, please, Kim. So, again, welcome to this month's call. So it's a November call, and it's our final members call of the year. So welcome. We have three fantastic speakers today, and we're going to be discussing community energy solutions. We welcome speakers Maurice Lynch from Northern Powergrid. He will be presenting to you Northern Powergrid's new community DSO innovation project. Joolz Thompson from the Great Collaboration. He'll be presenting to you Land Explorer, and Land Explorer is a mapping application tool to support community-led development. We also have Andrew Maliphant, who will be presenting a local community climate emergency engagement and action facilitator toolkit, and we'll be discussing how parish councils and local authorities can use it. So we've got three fantastic speakers lined up for you today. So for those of you who have never joined us for a member call before, these are 1 hour member only spaces. We usually hold them on the last Tuesday of each month, and we have a focused topic for each call. Our member call aims to allow you to connect with each other and with CEE. It's an opportunity for you to hear about CEE membership resources and up and coming events and activity. And it's a really good place for you to feed back to CEE and our priorities. And we hope that the calls will help you and the network grow together. So our agenda for today, we're going to just do a quick intro to CEE and Lumio. I'll then be handing over to our first speaker, Maurice. And then, as I've mentioned already, we'll have a Q&A session following all three speakers. Phil Coventry, who is our head of operations, is joining us towards the end of the call today, and he'll be providing you with an update for our 2024 State of the Sector report and our new data portal. We'll close the call with a reminder of CEE resources which are available to you, and also an update of some up and coming activity over the next month and into the new year. Quick intro to Community Energy England for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We were founded in 2014 by practitioners within the community energy sector to act as the voice of the sector and help put people at the heart of the energy system. Our membership has grown to over 285 community energy organisations and includes a range of community groups and stakeholder organisations. We are the national network and representative body for community energy, and we are the voice for the sector in England. All our work is intended to help clear obstacles, create connections between practitioners and stakeholders, and facilitate the work of community energy organisations, therefore benefiting the sector as a whole. So we work to make politicians, national and local government officials and network operators aware of community energy benefits, the sector's needs, opportunities and policy obstacles. This is to ensure that community energy organisations are able to create new projects and play an active and important role in the energy transition. If you want to find out more about our current policy work and activities, please take a look at our policy and advocacy section on our website, and I'll pop a link in so you can find that easily. You'll also be able to see our current consultations, active campaigns and policy responses there as well. And you'll find guidance and resources for how you can play your part in our policy and advocacy work. Duncan Law, who's our head of policy and advocacy, recently hosted a policy-focused member call in July, and he provided an update on key policy updates for the sector. We recorded that call, so you're also able to catch up on that, as I've mentioned, in Lumio or on our member call resource page on the website. So let me know and I can send you a link if you want to watch that video. So on to Lumio. Lumio is our online practitioner forum for community group members. If you are from a community group, you will have received an invitation to join the forum as part of signing up to this call. We would really encourage all of our community members to become members of this forum. The forum really encourages you to move beyond emails and connect directly with the sector. You can ask questions and work through issues and challenges together with our network. So it's a really, really lovely, safe space. We find lots of engaging conversation flowing on there every week. Lumio is a place for you to offer assistance. You can share experience and talk openly with each other, share documents, videos and other resources that may be helpful to other community practitioner organisations. The platform also really helps you to become and feel part of the community. Next slide, please, Kim. Brilliant. So that was a bit of an intro into CEE and our policy work and Lumio. It's now time for me to hand over to Maurice. So Maurice is from Northern Powergrid, and he's going to be talking to you about their community DSO innovation project. So we're really looking forward to hearing from Maurice, and please do pop your questions for Maurice into the chat box. I will be collating those for him and I'll be asking him those questions following all three speakers. So Maurice, over to you, and we'll run your slides for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well, and many thanks to Community Energy for allowing me to speak today on your monthly call. It's fantastic to be here and see the vast majority of you who have your cameras turned on. But yeah, my name is Maurice Lynch. I'm head of system flexibility within Northern Powergrid, and Community DSO is a project that comes under my remit within Northern Powergrid. I suppose the interesting thing and what's so special about Community DSO, and you're probably asking, why is he here talking about this? It's no short than that. It's the leading system flexibility project within the UK at this moment in time. It is all based on communities, giving that visibility, controllability and incentive to pursue their own decarbonisation agendas. So if with that in mind, Kim, can we go to the next slide, please? So the project is received £14.5 million worth of funding from Ofgem back in November 2022, which seems like a lifetime ago, it's only 12 months ago. It has, the whole purpose of the project is to allow communities to, I suppose, pursue their own decarbonisation agenda, have greater control over the energy and their assets in terms of the network they're connected to. What this does is results in strengthening local energy independence, incentives, local decarbonisation plans, drive down costs, which is a key thing for us and yourselves, and support the DSO functionality within distribution networks. Next slide, please, Kim. No, it's worth saying that Northern Powergrid isn't the only actual partner within this project. We are the lead partner, but there are also two other partners, LCVP, Delta and TNEI. LCVP specialise in a broad range of regulatory business changes in the electricity system, and TNEI are modelling and analytics specialists for transmission and distribution networks. It's worth noting as well that within Northern Powergrid, we have 3 dedicated team members: project manager, project lead, and stakeholder, project manager, technical lead, and a stakeholder lead, in addition to project managers from LCVP, Delta, and TNEI. So I'm trying to kind of outline that it's a project that's well stocked in terms of resource, and we're just preparing for, we're in the mobilisation phase at the moment, preparing for our upcoming tender for Trials 1, which I'm going to talk to you about a little later. Next slide, please, Kim. So as I said, the whole purpose of this is that if I can just give you a kind of an overview of what's looking to achieve, we're looking to create an archetype for different types of communities. There's rural, there's industrial, there's commercial, there's pure residential communities. The community DSO concept is to look at those communities and obviously incentivize them to reduce their demand on the network. If you think from a DNO perspective, we can't reinforce the whole entire network. We can only reinforce so much at a time. But if we give that controllability and build an actual systematic control system in play to allow communities to see, I'm generating this amount, I'm consuming this amount of actual generation or obviously capacity, I can turn down for whatever reason and be rewarded for that. That allows communities to pursue their own decarbonisation agenda. And again, I'll say again, the most important thing, and be rewarded for it. There's a number of DNOs, not just ourselves, who are interested in this project. I'd say ENW, SSEN, and UK Power Networks. But we're lucky enough to win the funding for this project and are looking to work with communities within, I have to say, within our regions, so the Yorkshire, North East and North Lincolnshire. So if you are a community based outside of those regions, unfortunately, you can't be viable to partake in this project, but there is some other actual means that we can look at supporting the DNO you are connected to doing a similar community DSO trial. So just to kind of go through again, so we want to create replicable tools and methodologies, technical and commercial requirements, look for industry change. So the interesting thing about community DSO, the innovation or the technical side of it is probably the easiest part. Showing that communities can manage their own generation and demand is a small element. We're looking to look at the financial modeling in terms of what is the financial model that needs to be in play to make communities really adopt this and move this forward. Look at the regulatory change, i.e. from an Ofgem point of view and Joolz funding, what do we need to change there for us in order for it to make work for the DNOs that is obviously utilising this actual concept. And then lastly, but most importantly, vulnerable customers. We want to create a network which benefits the customers, is connected to particularly the vulnerable customers. I don't believe that's been looked at or obviously cracked yet within the UK in terms of an innovation or from a networks point of view. And community DSO will do that. And it'd be fantastic to work with communities who are obviously looking to pursue that agenda, looking to pursue the objectives as well. So that's kind of the overview, the broad overview of the aims of the project. Kim, can we go to the next slide, please? So the cell concept. So I'm not going to go too technical on this, folks, because I tend to kind of lose an audience with onto the technicalities. But if you just imagine a distribution transformer that's feeding your local community, let's call it a small residential estate, which is within that small community. Within that, you're going to have a small distribution transformer that belongs to the local DNO. It could be a 500 to a 1000 MVA transformer, KVA transformer. And that's feeding all the actual houses and buildings and businesses. What we're looking to do is implement a set of controls where we're able to understand the actual consumption from each one of those households, and actually produce an actual control dashboard where you can see your generation and demand at any one time, and obviously induce set points where if you are to reduce your actual load, you're rewarded for that, and also you're helping, I suppose, reduce the strain on the network at that moment in time. So it's quite simplistic, this, in terms of the engineering behind it, but it's those behaviours and understanding from the financial modelling point of view on what are the other challenges we're working within the communities that we need to understand. I think I've seen in the slide earlier that we want this to be a BAU solution. This is another innovation project we're going to just spend money on and forget about it. We're very, very driven that this goes to a BAU solution and that all networks benefit from this. It is a 5-year project. So we have 4 trials, which I'll talk about on the next slide, but we are very, very keen, I think is the point I want to make, that this goes to a BAU and work with communities who want to drive that as well. Next slide, please, Kim. So again, just kind of a simple overview. There was a precursor project to this big NIC project, which is called NIA, where a small analysis and funding was put into it. And essentially what we're trying to do is remove the actual peaks, the daytime peaks, whether it be morning or obviously evening time. You'll see on the left-hand side there a peak from 6 to 9 p.m. in terms of people coming home, turning on dishwashers or whatnot, preparing dinner or whatnot. But if you incentivize and give that visibility and control to communities from the analysis we've shown, they remove that peak and they reduce the actual demand on the network. And that's great. And you probably think that's great for the DNO and they don't have to reinforce the network. I suppose the important thing that we're trying to emphasize here is that that's great for us. We also want to make it great for the actual consumers as well, and that they get rewarded for that as well, because that helps us to obviously be more strategic with our reinforcement spend. Next slide, please, Ken. So there's 4 trials. We're in the midst of preparing for trial 1 tender, which will go out next week. I hope I don't get in trouble with procurement. Yeah, it should go out next week. And essentially, we want communities to partner up with technology partners to help deliver the trial on our behalf. Northern Powergrid and obviously your partners won't deliver the trial. Trials will be delivered by the communities and the technology partners who will submit bids in for each of the trials, and obviously look to basically contract and take hold of that trial and deliver it on our behalf. We will feed in and obviously provide all the funding and resource and obviously expertise to feed into it, but we want the consortiums, for better words, to lead and deliver on these trials. As I said, trial 1 will run over for 2 winters. The reason that trial 1 is the longest, we want the lessons learned in the beginning to feed into trials 2, 3, and 4. We don't want to do the same trial twice. We want to look at doing different types of trials for residential, industrial, commercial, and etc., and see what is the best kind of community DSO archetype that works for each individual community. And there could be some communities where community DSO doesn't work well, and that's fine also. But there will be a good multitude where community DSO concept works well, and obviously will be a benefit, and we want to explore that. So if you're not in a preparation or a stage where you can mobilize for trial 1, I wouldn't be too worried. There is 3 other trials for you to get involved in. I think the key thing is to reach out and obviously to make yourself aware, obviously known to Northern Powergrid, and obviously want to participate in the trial, and we'll be able to take that forward. Next trial, please, Kim. Next slide, please, Kim. Oh, this is a bit of a drop in one. So, okay. So just to summarize the outcomes, the offer here is that we're looking to partner up with communities and obviously technology partners to deliver trials on our behalf. It is so in line, it is very much in line with communities' decarbonisation agenda, driving down demand, but also rewarding those that will need it in terms of doing so. You're taking advantage of a state-of-the-art innovation technology. Like I said, it's similar to those other projects that have gone before within Leo, such as Leo, Project Leo, and Transition, etc. Best thing about this project is that there is no installation of expensive generation or batteries. We're utilizing LCTs within the communities to help reduce demand and obviously provide controllability to the network. So again, it's using existing infrastructure, which is a viable and obviously cost-effective solution to go forward with. And provides a transition to route to net zero for local energy communities and its consumers. So that's the outcomes of the project that we expect. I think I surmise the last slide is just some contact details, Kim, is it? Yeah. If you're interested in that, please do make yourself known. If you're a community within our region who think you're able to provide or lead on a trial for us, we'll be very, very keen to work with you. Obviously, further conversations with you, please reach out and obviously email the team, communityDSO@northernpowergrid.com. We're very, very keen. Our door is always open, and we want to work with communities such as yourselves. And that's it from me, folks. I hope I haven't gone over the 6 or 7 minutes. Lisa, am I on cue?
Yeah, you're great. Thank you ever so much. That was really interesting. Thank you. Brilliant. Thanks so much. So please do pop any questions you have in the chat box, and we'll be answering those following our next 2 speakers. Kim, if you could please stop sharing the slides, because Joolz is going to be sharing his screen, and we'll now hand over to Joolz for his presentation.
Cool, thanks. Really interesting to hear what's happening in the north. That sounds really exciting. So I'm from an organisation called Community Climate Action, also part of the Great Collaboration, which we'll hear a little bit more about later when Andrew speaks. And Community Climate Action, every journey starts with a map. So I'm here today to talk about Land Explorer, which is a platform co-op developed by Shared Assets and the Solidarity Economy Association. And it's now part of Digital Commons, which is also a co-op that looks at linked open data and how it can use government data to support community-led development. And on Land Explorer, you can sort of search, you can view, you can draw maps, and then you can share with people in your group. And it's great because it uses Ordnance Survey data, free at the point of access. And some examples, we've used Land Explorer. This is a a water management map for our 10 acres of land in Norfolk, because flooding is a real problem. So we've drawn on there sort of some where we're going to put French drains, ditches, berms, this kind of thing. But we're also using it to look at land registry data and who owns what. And I'm a parish councillor in a small village called Hopton, which you can just see on the map. And we've got 37 homes going up in a private development, but we're really keen to look at rural exception site to provide some social housing in perpetuity. So what we've looked at here is a top slice of a county field owned by Suffolk County Council, about 15 acres. And we hope to build some net zero or carbon negative homes with associated renewable energy to power those. And the red area you can see is the rest of the field. It's about 200 acres and it's owned, and it's handy to know that it's owned by Suffolk County Council, because we've then had some very fruitful conversations as a parish council about an asset transfer of the land. It has not quite satellite, but an overview done by aeroplanes and very similar to Google Maps. And this is just a little bit about our farm. We've got 10 acres of land. So it's really handy for us to sort of plan what's around that, in particular as a community group with Community Climate Action. This is Dave, who's our barman and forest school teacher. And his comment was about the pub is we're going to cover it in green science. So this is sort of some of the rubbish that we've cleared off. We've put some rigs down. We've just installed a 3.5 kilowatt solar system at the farm because we're completely off grid, no mains water and no power. We've also taken on our local pub, which is a centre for activity, in particular community climate action planning. And that community climate action planning is a series of participatory workshops for our parishes to produce our community plan. Because councils and government are great, but they can only nudge and tell, or nudge and ask. They can't tell, they can't pass laws, and they have little money at the moment. So really we need to take action in the community. So what we're looking at is, as I say, Dave said, putting green science all over the pub, which means covering it in renewable energy, lots of solar power, ground source heat pump, and we hope to be a net exporter of energy for our village. We're on a Community Energy South Pathways programme for site identification and feasibility studies. And we've identified so far 2 pubs, a couple of churches, even Bury St Edmunds Cathedral wants solar. We've got a shop, a village hall, a school and a dentist. And then we're looking at some larger scale projects, including wind turbines and maybe some solar farms. And we've gone from 3 to 6 to 9 parishes now have a Suffolk Green Cluster. And our Suffolk Green Cluster are now founders of Suffolk's Community Energy Steering Group. So there's sort of, as well as our Green Cluster, there's around 5 other community groups that are founder members of the steering group. And we hope to support other community groups in and around Suffolk to do the same. But of course, what we've got to do, and that's our Suffolk Green Cluster. And we've got community climate action groups springing up all over the country. But what we hope to do, obviously, is with site identification and feasibility studies, is really drill down into what land is available, what's suitable in terms of power networks and what have you. And the map itself, it will likely be included in a login in the Great Collaboration, which is currently a grant-funded project that's come to the end of its grant funding, specifically designed for Herefordshire Association of Local Councils. And we're tailoring it to look less at individual actions, which you can see on screen, which is kind of switch your bank account, avoid fertilizers, rewild your bits of garden, to look at more collective action. And that includes things like retrofitting homes, community power, community energy generation. And I won't go on too much about the Great Collaboration because that's Andrew's presentation. So for now, this is an example of a UK power networks map that looks at sort of headroom in terms of substations. So this is the kind of information that I would imagine would be really helpful to community energy groups, certainly interesting for us from our perspective. This is another application which has a bit more granular detail perhaps than Land Explorer. And what I'll do in a moment, if I have time, is just quickly have a look at the actual applications. This application is called Parish Online. It's designed for parish councils, and it's paid access. So depending on where you are, it may be a little expensive if you've got a lot of people. Where I am rurally, we've got a very small community, so it's relatively cheap to access. And we've had some fruitful conversations with Parish Online to put a freemium version onto the Great Collaboration. So you'll be able to access some of the free open Ordnance Survey data free of charge. So thanks very much. That's Community Climate Action and a little bit about what we're doing in Suffolk with iFarm. And then I'll just show you the actual application. So this is Land Explorer. And like I say, it has Ordnance Survey data and it's free at the point of access. So it's really, really helpful to be able to just have a look at. And you can toggle between the aerial and the topography. Being Ordnance Survey, it's some of the most accurate mapping data available in the world because we've been at it for a couple of 100 years. So it's not quite millimeter perfect, but getting there. And if you look at the topography, there's a bunch of handy drawing tools. You can drop a marker, you can draw a polygon, you can put a line in. So you can start to measure distances in this kind of thing. You can edit and delete. And in terms of layers, you can look at things like agricultural land classification. And I mentioned us putting a solar farm in. Well, there's a lot of planning objections to turning over prime agricultural land to solar farms. Our intention is to use agrivoltaics, which is solar on stilts, so we can either have livestock grazing underneath and still have pasture, which sequesters a lot of carbon, or we can cultivate things like brassica or broccoli that like shade, for instance. But in terms of the map, we can put on flood data, really, really handy. And again, we've got about 4 acres of fen and it floods. So actually some of that habitat really likes shade as well. And so solar on stilts might be suitable for that. But it also has things like SSIs. So you've got to be fairly careful, obviously, where we're planning stuff. Well, what's particularly interesting as well, it's got wards, parishes and local councils, also handy to understand. But what's really helpful, if you look at land registry data, I'll just zoom in a moment, is who owns what. So you can click on an area and you can start to see who owns it. I've got a lot of things in terms of information on here, but if I zoom down to the bottom, it'll give you the Inspire ID and the title number, which is very helpful when you start to make inquiries about who owns it. If it's public or corporate, so if it's a charity, a church, a public sector, or a private limited company, it will tell you the details of who owns that land because that's free at the point of access. If it's privately owned, there's still a statutory fee to access that data and you need to go to land registry to pay for that. But it gives you a really helpful shape of what's around you geographically, what are the possibilities, and potentially you can have a look at brownfield data as well. So you can see what the council might own or what the county estate might be and the public sector areas, because they're quite keen to sell them off at the moment. And I think I feel very strongly that communities should get kind of first refusal of those bits of land, be it to grow food or to install, community renewable energy. I'll just quickly tab onto Parish Online, which, as I say, is at the moment it's a paid product, but we will be giving some access to it free of charge through the Great Collaboration. And what's really helpful on here is it does have some national grid information in terms of substations, pylons and cables, this kind of thing. But also in particular, it has EPC information on here. And, when we're looking at energy performance certificates, the cheapest cost of energy is no energy. So when we're considering net zero, and considering supply to our communities, really important to understand where we can have the biggest bang for our buck when we're retrofitting homes. So it's got EPC's current rating, but in particular, it's got the potential score increase, which shows the lowest hanging fruit in your community for retrofitting. We'll also be incorporating network infrastructure data. So this is your UK Power Networks map. And at the moment, it's showing sort of headroom and infrastructure upgrades where we are. And we're in a green area. So we've got potentially a little bit of headroom for supplying energy to the grid. In a similar vein to Community Energy England, and I'm delighted to hear they're using Hilo, which is sorry, not Hilo, Lumio, which is an excellent platform, particularly for decision making. We use an open source platform called Hilo. So we've got our groups in here merrily chatting away. So I'd advise you to join Lumio, and if you're not on there already, get chatting, share your information. And Hilo's handy because it's got a members directory. Again, Facebook off Facebook, and we're building some tools around it. And certainly in terms of the map, this will be where you can get access to Ordnance Survey data with an integration with Land Explorer and Parish Online and other helpful information. And as I say, this is the Great Collaboration, which is a toolkit designed for council and community climate action. And this is what Andrew's going to talk about a little bit more. And at the moment, it has a bunch of actions on there that we can all take as individuals. You can make a pledge to take an action. And once you've done it, it will feed that information back up to the local authorities. So the local authority can understand a little bit more about action being taken in their communities. Having taken it on as a bunch of concerned volunteers and individuals, we've got a little bit of funding from the Society for Local Council Clerks. So we have an audience of 5,000 town and parish councils in the UK. I'm a parish councillor for my sins. And we'll be putting more information on there about how we can act collectively rather than individually. And like I say, every journey starts with a map. So really important we map what's around us and develop a plan for our communities. So I'm Joolz.
Sorry, can I just stop you there? Sorry, just for time.
Finishing,
Bill, thank you.
So I've been Joolz, and I'll put my details in the chat. Thank you very much.
Sorry, thanks so much, Joolz. That was really, really interesting. It was great to see the map and the demo as well. And just a reminder, please do pop your questions in the chat for Joolz. We'll be answering those very shortly. We're now going to hand over to our final speaker, Andrew. Kim, if you could share our slides, and we'll start. Oh, Andrew, you're sharing. That's brilliant. Thank you. And we'll hand over to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Andrew Maliphant, Joolz and I are both working on the Great Collaboration. I've come from a background of being a parish councillor and a parish clerk, but we're now looking very much more at getting things working together on the climate agenda. And it's really about joining up, it's about networking, it's about working together. And so the Great Collaboration is one approach to it. I can talk about some more towards the end of the brief chat. So it's a toolkit for local people. It's also a resource pack for local councils. The way it works is that individuals can log into this website and they can choose from a list of up to 60 potential climate actions they can take. And Joolz has just shown a few of those. They can then register on the website saying, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is what I can't do and why I can't do it, and just have a registered position on that website, which they can update. Part of that includes their postcode. Now, there's a widget, which is a technical term. There's a widget within the Great Collaboration which allows parish councils to interrogate this information by postcode. They don't get any personal details, but they can find out by postcode search what is or isn't happening in their area. So this is a tool that works whereby local people can get involved, but also their parish and town councils can get engaged as well. So that's where it is at the moment. There is some guidance. There is a resource pack for local councils on the website. The website pack does suggest these following steps for a council, looking at councils as much as individuals now. Declaring an emergency, certainly. Using the promotion resources to inspire your residents and visitors to get involved. And there's a pile of resources on that website which people are very much free to use. It suggests having a plan that what the council will do actively support sort of the Great Collaborations. We don't expect people to be able to support all 60 all at once, but it's good to start somewhere. The reports from the website to inform local powers of the ports I just referred to, which are part of an automatic function. So in terms of the promotion resources, I'm talking about what the Great Collaboration currently provides for councils. Potential communication channels, ideas for social media engagement. We all have opportunities to talk with social media these days, either through our own council website or that's a local notice board or what have you. There's some text and imagery that's provided. Here's one of the images that they have about how protecting the environment can be save money, which is of an interest to most of us, I would like to think at the moment. That's just an example of the kind of imagery that can be done. There's an idea about how we promote the events and the actions and the joining up that we're trying to do. And there's also there in a chart which is about responding to ordinance, because I think we all know that there are some people who are climate deniers. There are some people about cynics about it ever going to be working, but there are believers and there are people that are really getting stuck in. And so what the guidance says is, how can we think about our messages and getting our story across to these different audiences? And that's an important point to bear in mind. I'm talking fairly quickly because I'm conscious we want to have some questions at the end of this exercise. Here's a couple of examples of what some people in Herefordshire have been doing. As Joolz pointed out, the website has been piloted in Herefordshire, where our business is extending it nationally. So we have a launch event that was managed by the King's Capel Parish Council in Herefordshire, which got a lot of people involved. There was discussion groups about particular topics within the event, and there was a table for each event, and they came out with some plans for the way to go forward. So that is just simply one way of getting involved between the council and the community. Some of this is not exactly news to everybody, but it's always interesting to see examples of how it's been done. On the website, great collaboration, there's more details. I've just picked out the high points. Another approach was an eco festival. This was again a free festival. This was sponsored by the Malvern Hills AONB, so it was within their area. We've ever been to the Malverns. Again, talks, stalls from organisations. So this is perhaps a wider event, getting organisations involved who are already engaged in environmental actions of different kinds. There was think about different levels of community, different sections of the community. So there are things for the younger people there as well. And there was also feedback guide as to what people would like to see their local councillors do. So those are simply two examples, and there's other examples on the Great Collaboration website of how local events and engagement can take place. So what we're going to be looking at, just to finish this, we're talking about council and community climate action. That's going to be our new strap line. As Joolz has already mentioned, we're going to include some of the collective actions to add to those for individuals, what community groups can do, as well as what councils can do. In many places, of course, it's community groups that have started work on this agenda before their parish councils got involved, and some people at this call may have experience of that. In some cases it's the other way around. The great thing, of course, is to get people working together. We want to expand the resources available to local councils. There's already some available in advance of updating Great Collaboration, which are publicised on the Society of Local Council Clerks website, and I'm going to put a link to that in a moment. That also has within there a link to the Centre for Sustainable Energies advice on community engagement, which I recommend to you. It's quite useful stuff. Finally, last but not least, we're going to have a network of advisors, because not everybody wants to surf the web or go to an online session like today. They'd like to see a real human being and speak to somebody about it. In Herefordshire, they found that having a warm human being involved in this, giving talks to people, responding to queries, was a very important part of the whole deal. So we will be looking to develop that around the country as well. I could talk more about that, but I will stop this at this point because I'm sure there'll be more some questions. But I will put the link in the chat to some of the other information that's already available.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much, Andrew. It was brilliant. We are going to move on to the Q&A session now. We will be sharing any links and further resources from all of our speakers following the call. So if we can put links in the chat box now, but I'll follow up and make sure that they're shared with all of you following the call for you to have a look at. Fab. So we have got a couple of questions that have come in. Kim, if you could just pop our slides back up, that would be really useful. Thank you. So Maurice, some people have said they'd be interested in taking part in the trial, and I know you shared your contact details earlier. I'm presuming it's just easiest for people to drop you an email if they are wanting to take part in the trial.
Yes, so if they want to drop an email, so we had a number of engagement sessions throughout the year where we got communities in a room with technology partners to speak and form consortiums. Conscious not everyone may have had the opportunity to do that. So if you obviously email us, we'll obviously take that away and also come back to you accordingly. The one thing I'd like to say, Lisa, I hope it's okay, just in case there's any ambiguity, the funding for these trials, for trial 1 is 3.2 million, which is obviously funded by Option via Northern Powergrid. For trials 2, 3 and 4, it's £1.9 million each, which again is funded via Northern Powergrid, funded from Northern Powergrid via Option for the consortiums to deliver. That's it.
Thank you. Someone's asking, is there an eligibility criteria for interested community groups? I think
We're
that's taking
interested-
part in the trial.
Yeah, we're interested in all types of community. Ideally, we'd have above 100 customers, and we would a mix of residential, or it can just be purely residential, commercial. We're looking for different types of actual variation there. So I think there is no set criteria. So if you're interested, the key thing for us, having an engaging community with LCTs within the community who want to participate in this trial. That is the key thing. If you have that and you're in our region, we're interested to speak to you.
Brilliant, thank you. Paul from Hartle Power has also asked, for residential properties, what's the difference between, say, Octopus Energy signing up collaborative response from customers to lower demand and the DSO project?
So yeah, you can think of DFS from ESO in terms of all that, and obviously customers adhering to that, but we're not DFS. I need to be clear on that. We are constantly giving you a threshold or a line to adhere to. DFS is instantaneous. You drop down from 4 to 5, you're awarded for it. We're looking for a continuous line where you manage your own generation and consumption. So if you're generating, so if you're consuming a lot, you could have batteries within this community which dispatch at that time to help lower that peak. So it's not a DFS in terms of a singular point. We're looking for that continuous actual stream, Paul. And the other thing I'd say is that Octopus will be one of the actual organisations who will be looking to participate in these trials as well. So it's learning for them also.
Well, thank you. And if anyone's got any other questions following the meeting today, then please do reach out to the contact details of all the speakers, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help with your questions. I've got a couple of questions for Joolz and also for Andrew, so I'll just move on to those. Joolz, Keith O'Born says it's really great stuff, but how do you get local residents, community facilities and property owners to even notice and respond to the ideas you were implementing?
Great question. So a number of ways from our perspective. So we've been through a series of, like I say, community climate action planning, and the emphasis is on the community. So we fly at every house, we put it on Facebook, we organised a series of events, and what we got was about 5% of our population attend a series of 4 participatory workshops. And what's really important there is they write the plan. So I had to sit on my hands and bite my tongue and not get involved, because the ideas, the innovations, the impetus has to come from the community. And this is based on YouGov data that 80% of the population don't think the government's doing enough. 60% of the population want to take action but don't know what to do. Now, we're not going to get everybody. We've got lives, you know, school runs, illnesses, work and this kind of thing, but 5% is enough to give us a mandate to write a plan and take action. And what's come out of that is a formal meeting of parishes every quarter in our green cluster, and we've now got community-driven working groups in housing, transport, energy, food, and biodiversity. So we're seeing people step up and take the lead on those as volunteers, and that's you know, sort of what we've done for community engagement. Businesses also, you know, they'll have their own targets and what have you. And really, we're acting in support of our district and county targets. So we've got a lot of support from our district and county councils, and lots of parish councils and parish councillors also keen to take action. So I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Joolz. I'm just looking at time. I've got one question here for Andrew, and I've got a few others, but I think I'll have to pass those over to speakers following the call. But this one for Andrew has come in, which says, Andrew, what type of training do your outreach members receive to then go out and be that person delivering talks and advice on climate, etc., climate literacy, national energy action?
Yes. Yes, thanks for that. Yeah, those points are very well made. There will be those kinds of climate literacy training. Of course, one of the recommendations is that parish councils and councils also undertake climate literacy training where they can. There's a carbon literacy project which is able to support those kinds of things. We're at the early stages of developing a network of advisors. In some places, there are county associations of town and parish councils that have an officer in place. Some places like Cambridgeshire, there is a voluntary sector organisation in place. So we're in the process at the moment not of making those connections, We're in the process also of gathering the funding to support climate county advisors in each county, starting with the counties in that case. And so if we have, so we're looking ahead at this stage. We haven't got everybody people in for every county at the moment. I see it was Thomas who put that question involved. I would be very keen if anybody would like to be connected with ourselves to keep up to date with so forth. I'll put an email address in the chat as well, where people can be in touch, and so that we can keep getting up to date with developments. The address will relate to something called the Place-Based Initiative, which is simply the name of our collective company, but it is very much, it is the Place-Based Initiative that is supporting the development of the Great Collaboration. So I'll put that email in the address now. So thanks for the question. There will be more news in due course.
Thanks, Andrew. There's lots of really useful chat and information being put in the chat box at the moment as well. So I will kind of write all of that up and make sure it's shared with everybody, because it's really useful, and I think it'll help everybody on the call. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. Sorry, time is kind of catching up with us. I will share any other questions with you, so we can share those answers as well following the call. It's now time for me to hand over to Phil Coventry, who's our head of operations at Community Energy England, and he's going to give us an update on our plans for the 2024 State of the Sector report. So Phil, over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Lisa. And lovely to see all of you here. Great to see over 50 people on the call. It's great to have our members all congregating. I like this very much. So yeah, my name is Phil Coventry. I'm head of operations at Community Energy England. My short slot today is just to talk to you about the state of the sector. That's the name that we gave several years ago to our annual research into the community energy sector. We started that in 2017, so it's been going for several years. And then this last year we've had a break, which hopefully was good for many of you in terms of not having to fill in a survey. And one of the reasons that we took a break is to basically rethink how we did the survey, and how our kind of your members' relationship with it, as well as what we do with the data. So historically, what we do is we ask as many members as possible to fill in quite a large survey, which has a lot of questions about the different types of activities, so electricity generation, energy efficiency, fuel poverty advisory work, and it goes into quite a lot of detail about the types of organisations that you each are and the activities that you're doing. The reason for that is to help us represent you and support the sector. So it's part of us learning about what our members are doing, planning to do, what's getting in the way, that kind of thing. It also is a key advocacy tool, because it allows us to talk about the reality of the sector, both from the perspective of what it's achieved, what it's done, so we can talk about the scale and the size and the growth and things like that, and the determination as well, because we can see how much is being achieved. But it also allows us to talk from an advocacy perspective with different sort of policymakers and parts of government and things about what is needed. So whether that's particular types of support, or whether there are regulatory barriers that are getting in the way of community energy, that kind of thing. So it's been very key for our work as the sector's representative body and support association. But it also, we know, allows members themselves to take the data. So it allows members, if you're doing a funding application, it allows members to get some data about the scale of the sector that they're part of, because we know that each member is part of this larger movement, this larger sector, and that trying to have those kind of figures and data at hand is useful for many different reasons for different members. So it is intended to be a two-way process, where we produce the data, and that's not just useful for us, it's useful for members as well. But we do know that it was a big survey burden. Each year, putting all the data in took quite a long time, and we did try to gradually improve the way that we carried that out. So things like making the questions available so that everyone could gather the data they needed before filling out the survey. So there were little things we did like that to try to make it a bit of an easier process. But we decided to pause to rethink kind of how it was working from the perspective of how we did the survey and then what we did with the data. And one of the main things that I was told by various members during that sort of period of trying to listen was that the process is very difficult and frustrating. So it's frustrating that the data is sort of just every year. And I think a lot of people felt that it would be more sensible if the data was kept and could be updated. So what I have tried to do is turn that into a reality. So I'm working with Community Energy Wales and Community Energy Scotland on a online web portal, which will kind of be nested into our website. And if there is anyone here from Wales and Scotland, there will be separate versions that will be nested into the Community Energy Wales and Scotland websites. But what it will do is effectively kind of create a survey which is static and it's open all year. What you'll be able to do is log in, and there will be a mechanism where the organisation has a kind of registration, and then people can join under it. You'll need to sort of approve new members or send them the link to join new users. So you can have more than one is what I'm trying to say, because that was also one of the frustrations, was that one person has to enter all the data into a survey. So we try to get around that by allowing you to have more than one person who can put data in. If you have some of our larger members have many members of staff who do different things in the organisation and might want to input at different times. So yeah, it will effectively sit as a survey which is open all year. The data that you've put in it will be available. So you can, for example, if you have a new solar site that goes live, you will be able to put the data in about that when it's happened, rather than having to do everything in January, February time. And we will go through a process every year of asking you to update your data. So instead of having to go in and fill everything in from scratch, you'll be able to go in and you just have to do things that have changed. So obviously think like lots of characteristics about your organization may have stayed the same. You might have the same number of employees that you did last year, so you can leave that the same, but then you've got more volunteers, so you can increase that number. So hopefully it will be much quicker because it will be a process of reviewing data rather than inputting everything from scratch. I'm working with the development team on little things to make it easy and very clear. So things that will tell you when a question is new. So we've added it in at some point and we're asking you to put in your data fresh. We're also working on how to make it clear if data is a bit old. So if we think you haven't looked at a question for 6 months or a year, making sure that's flagged so that you're able to sort of see what you need to update and when. And the idea with this is that it reduces the amount of time that it takes every year for our members to fill this in, but also, and hopefully then makes it a sustainable exercise, because as I said, I've had it reinforced to me many times by many people how important having this data is, both for the sector and its growth and the way that we can advocate on its behalf, but also so that members, as I said before, have access to up-to-date information about the broader sector that they are part of. So that's the exercise that I'm currently underway, kind of managing that project, and the intention is to launch at the beginning of February and make that open. Data from 2021, which is the last data set we have, will be in there. So if your organisation filled in the survey previously, particularly 2021, the years get complicated because a year of the output is the different to the year of the input, if you see what I mean. But basically the last 2 years worth of data should be in there. So if your organisation filled that in that period, you will be able to register for the new portal, and you'll find your data is already sat in there waiting. So again, we'll need to be updating because 2 years have passed, but it, again, hopefully should be considerably easier. And then once it's up and running, it will kind of hopefully be a very useful function for the sector as we feed the data in. I'm working also on how we output the data and what that looks like. Traditionally, we have always done a report. We sort of again changed that more recently. So we did a report and then we did a sort of shorter summary document. That was how we've ended up for the last couple of years. But I'm very open to ideas about what kind of data output would be useful for you. So particularly if there are sort of things that you want to be able to point people to, visualizations of the data, for example. If you find that that's something that you wish existed and doesn't about community energy, then I would like to hear about that. I think it might be time to shrink the report slightly. I haven't so far had anyone tell me that the length of the report is a key quality, a key aspect that they like about it, or that's very useful. We know that a degree of analysis about what's going on in the community energy sector is useful. But I think, yeah, I would like to transition to some slightly different mechanisms, be that visual, but also, for example, an animation or something which can kind of communicate the data in a different way. I'm quite open to that kind of thing. So that's yes, as a portal under development, outputs under sort of thought and discussions. So I'm very open to new ideas about that. And also just to state that this is the first phase. I can't kind of put everything into the portal that we might want in terms of features. So it will be hopefully the start of a relationship between Community Energy England and our members from the perspective of trying to continuously evolve this, add in new things that are going to be useful or will make it easier. Yeah, hope most of all that it makes it easier for you to provide the data, because it really helps us and our organisation. It helps us serve you and represent you, and it helps the sector as a whole. So we do really want it to continue, but as I said, make it easier and more straightforward for you. So that's a summary, but happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, please do pop questions for Phil in the chat box. We might not have time to answer them on this call now, but we'll get back to you if you do have questions. So thanks ever so much, Phil. Right, I'm conscious of time. So next slide, please, Kim. Just wanted to, hopefully everybody's heard of the new 10 million Community Energy Fund. We are still waiting for applications to open. We are hoping that we will hear news of this very soon. I'm just popping in a link to our dedicated Community Energy Fund webpage. We really would encourage you to keep checking this page. We're going to be adding resources and offers of help to the page, and important news as we learn of it. We've got the Net Zero Hub contacts listed on that page, and we do really also encourage you to contact your Net Zero Hub to discuss your project ideas and eligibility, so you're in the best position to get your applications off once that process has opened. But we will share any news on the fund as we hear of it. So please keep your eye out for any comms coming through from us on that. Next slide, please, Kim. Just recapping really other resources that are available to you. We've got our map, our national map that's still going. Please do add your community energy projects and news onto the map. We've got our Join Our Map campaign, which you can find on our website. We're still getting thousands of hits each month. It's a really valuable resource to our members and to the sector and those outside of our membership. So please do get your work on the map. Our funding database and our funding opportunities page is up to date. It's got lots of really useful information on different types of funding and grants available to you. So please do keep your eye on there. And that's where our Community Energy Fund is also, fund page is also listed there as well. As always, I encourage you to share your news with us, the good, the bad, the challenges. We want to hear from you, our members. We want to be able to promote your work, your news. But also we want to hear about the challenges and barriers that you're facing. We do listen to those. We try to kind of use them in our policy and advocacy work when we are aware of challenges. We do want to kind of help you with those as much as we can. So please do make sure you kind of keep us updated on any news that you want to share with us. I'm just looking at time. I can see people dropping off. Jobs, we can promote your jobs and your share offers as well. So we've got a share offers page on our website. And of course, we've got our members mailing list and our newsletter, which goes out fortnightly. Next slide, please, Kim. We held our Community Energy Awards on the 17th of November at the Lowry Theatre in Manchester. It was an absolutely fantastic event. Lots of members in the room celebrating their outstanding achievements throughout the year. So you can catch up on all of our finalists and all of our winners and their case studies on the website. I would really encourage you to have a look for some really inspiring work and kind of see what types of work are happening throughout England and the work that's been done by our members. So a huge congratulations to all of our finalists and winners. Next slide, please, Kim. And finally, this is our last member call of 2023. So a huge thank you to the speakers who have joined us today. We really appreciate the time that you've given. We hope that the speakers and the members on the call have found it useful, but a huge thank you to all of our members who have joined us on previous calls that have taken place this year. The calls are here for you, our members, and we really do hope that you find them valuable. And we hope that it's a great place for you to hear about sector-related initiatives that are happening and resources that can positively help your organisations grow and develop. On this screen, you can see a taste of what's planned for 2024. So we've got some member calls lined up for the first quarter of the year. So please do bookmark those dates in your diaries. We really hope you can join us, and I'll be popping them up on our Eventbrite page shortly before the end of the year, so you can start booking onto them. And yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. I will be following up with questions and resources and the recording before the end of the week. And yeah, thanks ever so much. It was great to see you as always. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, CEE.